Life has a way of bringing you to your knees, not to break you, but to show you where real power begins. You'll have days when the weight on your chest feels too heavy to carry, when no one seems to understand the storm inside you. But in that very moment, when everything pushes you down, Allah is gently guiding you to the ground, because that's where sujood lives, the doorway to peace the world can't offer. When your forehead touches the earth, you're not falling, you're rising in the most powerful way. Sujood is not a moment of defeat. It's where your pain turns into a conversation with the most merciful. In that silence, your heart finally speaks and Allah listens. The world may see you bowed, but the angels see you honored. That's where broken souls find light again, in the stillness of sujood, where every burden begins to lift. The ground beneath your forehead is not a place of loss, it's a place of return. When you bow before Allah, you are not admitting defeat, you are admitting truth. You are saying, Ya Allah, I cannot do this without you. And in that moment, your surrender becomes your strength. The world sees a person bent low, but in the unseen, your soul is being raised higher than mountains. Sujood is not about giving up, it's about giving in to the one who never lets you fall in vain. Every time you lower your head, you are laying down your pain, your pride, your confusion, and your burdens. You're letting the earth hold what your heart can no longer carry. And Allah, the most merciful, receives it all with love. When life pushes you to your knees, it is not to humiliate you, but to humble you. Because humility is the door to peace. The ones who bow before people are weakened, but the ones who bow before Allah find a strength that no trial can destroy. In sujood, you are no longer running from your pain, you are placing it exactly where it belongs, at His feet. Every time your forehead touches the ground, the world falls away for a moment. The noise, the pressure, the disappointments all fade. It's just you and your Creator. The ground that holds you doesn't mock your tears. It absorbs them like a witness to your faith. The angels record the sincerity that no one else can see. When you go into sujood, your position is low, but your spirit is at its highest. The closer you are to the earth, the closer you are to the one who created it. It's not the weight of the world that keeps you down. It's Allah's mercy drawing you near. The moment you submit is the moment He begins to lift you. The believer doesn't see sujood as a ritual. It's refuge. It's the place you go when nothing makes sense, when your words fall short, when your strength runs out. Because sujood is not about posture, it's about connection. In that silence, your heart speaks a language that only Allah understands. When you surrender, you are not losing, you are aligning. You are saying, Ya Allah, my plans failed, but your wisdom prevails. That moment of stillness on the prayer mat is when destinies shift, when hearts are healed, when doors begin to open. The ground that catches your tears is the same ground where angels descend with mercy. Every believer who has truly tasted sujood knows that it changes everything. You may rise from the same spot, but you are not the same person. The pain doesn't vanish, but your heart grows stronger. Your face touches dust, yet your soul tastes peace. That is the power of surrender. It transforms defeat into devotion. The ground has seen more miracles than we ever will. It has felt the touch of prophets, the weight of warriors, and the tears of those who trusted Allah when life broke them. When you place your head upon it, you join that legacy, a chain of faith that began with Adam and continues through every believer who bows with sincerity. Sometimes Allah brings you to the ground so that you finally look up, not toward the sky, but toward the meaning of life itself. You begin to understand that strength doesn't come from standing tall, it comes from kneeling in humility. The closer your head is to the earth, the clearer your heart becomes. When you bow down, the burdens that felt immovable begin to lighten. You're not escaping your struggles, you're exchanging them for strength. Sujood doesn't change your situation instantly, but it changes you in ways that transform everything else. The ground that once symbolized defeat now becomes a cradle of peace. In that sacred position, your heart begins to whisper the truth. I was never alone. The one who brought you to this moment has been guiding you all along. You feel the world fade away, replaced by a calm that cannot be described, only felt. The ground becomes the meeting place between your weakness and His strength. Each sujood writes a story that the angels record with reverence, a story of surrender, trust, and resilience. The tears that fall upon the ground do not go unseen. They are carried to the heavens, turned into mercy, and returned as blessings you didn't even know you needed. In sujood, every breath you take becomes dhikr. Every heartbeat says, Ya Allah, I'm yours. It's not a posture of despair, it's the posture of those who truly believe. Because those who know Allah understand that being lowered before Him is the highest honor a soul can receive. When life pushes you down, remember that the ground isn't your enemy, it's your sanctuary. It's where the noise of the world fades and the voice of your soul awakens. You bow not to give up, but to rise purified, strengthened, and reconnected to your purpose. The ground doesn't define your fall, it defines your faith. It becomes sacred not because of what it is, but because of who you're bowing to. Every grain of dust beneath your forehead becomes a witness to your surrender, a testimony that you chose Allah even when life gave you every reason to give up. Sujood teaches you that falling isn't failure. The real failure is refusing to bow when Allah calls you closer. Every time you choose sujood over despair, you choose faith over fear, peace over panic, and purpose over pain. You rise from it with new eyes, eyes that see life differently. The ground reminds you that you came from it and will return to it. Yet between those two moments, it is in sujood that you truly live. Because in sujood you are free. The world loses its grip on you. Your heart beats only for the one who shaped it, and your tears become your worship. The most beautiful victories in life are born from surrender. When you fall into sujood, you're not giving in to life, you're giving yourself to the one who gave you life. And that act alone transforms defeat into dignity, sorrow into serenity, and despair into divine strength. So when life pushes you down again, don't resist it. Fall, but fall with purpose. Let the ground hold your pain, your hopes, your repentance, your trust. Because in that sacred stillness, you'll find that the ground never held your defeat, it held your return to Allah. Every fall in life feels heavy at first, as if the ground beneath you gave way without warning. You lose your footing, your confidence, sometimes even your sense of direction. But Allah never allows a fall without reason. What seems like a collapse is often an invitation, a gentle call to pause, reflect, and rise again with a heart renewed by faith. It's not punishment, it's preparation for something greater. When you fall, you are reminded that this world was never meant to be your foundation. It shakes, it shifts, and it disappoints, but it does so to guide you back to what is firm, your connection with Allah. The same pain that brought you down can be the reason you stand again, stronger and more sincere than before. Allah allows you to stumble so that you can rediscover the strength that comes only from relying on Him. Every believer has moments of breaking, but those moments are where faith is reborn. The soul bends, not to snap, but to grow in a new direction. Every fall is the beginning of a rise, written with divine wisdom. When life pushes you down, you might feel that everything has ended. Yet, that's often when Allah begins to rewrite your story. He removes what you once leaned on to teach you who to lean on. Falling is not the end, it's an awakening, a sacred chance to rebuild your heart upon truth instead of illusion. The beauty of faith is that no fall is final when Allah is your Lord. The Prophet, peace be upon him, taught that even if your sins reach the clouds, Allah's mercy can still raise you higher. So how could a believer's fall ever be permanent when the one who forgives is infinite? You're never too far gone to return. Every stumble carries within it a lesson that success could never teach. When you fall, you learn the fragility of pride and the strength of humility. You learn that dependence on people fails, but dependence on Allah never does. The moment your knees touch the ground, your soul learns how to fly. The believer's rise always begins at the point of surrender. When you admit that you can't do it alone, Allah begins to lift you. He doesn't need your perfection, only your persistence. Falling doesn't disqualify you from His mercy, it qualifies you for His closeness. Every return after a fall is a victory in the unseen. You might feel that you've fallen too far to recover, but Allah specializes in raising those who think they can't. He loves a heart that keeps turning back no matter how many times it stumbles. The more you fall and rise for His sake, the more beautiful your journey becomes. The pain of falling often feels unbearable, but it has purpose. It breaks the ego that stood between you and Allah. It humbles you, refines you, and makes you softer toward others who struggle too. Each fall teaches empathy, the understanding that everyone is fighting a battle you cannot see. Sometimes Allah lets you fall not because you've failed, but because you've forgotten where your strength truly lies. He removes your balance in this world to restore your balance in faith. It's in those moments of helplessness that the believer rediscovers what it means to trust completely. The one who falls into despair believes the journey has ended, but the one who falls into sujood knows it has just begun. You see, every setback hides a doorway to something sacred. If only you pause long enough to notice it. Allah doesn't let you fall to leave you. He lets you fall to meet you. Each rise after a fall is more meaningful than standing untested, because standing without falling teaches nothing, but rising after a fall teaches resilience, patience, and gratitude. It proves that Allah's mercy is not limited to your strength, it's activated in your weakness. When you rise again after falling, you rise not as the same person, but as someone reborn through faith. Your scars remind you of where you've been, but they also remind you of who carried you through. Every pain that once broke you becomes a sign of how far Allah has brought you. The soul that never fell, never learned what surrender feels like. And surrender is the essence of worship. Falling strips away the illusion of control and replaces it with the sweetness of trust. When you finally stop resisting and start submitting, you find peace in places you never expected. The believer doesn't ask, "Why did I fall?" They ask, "What is Allah teaching me through this?" That question transforms pain into purpose. It turns confusion into clarity and hopelessness into hope. Every trial becomes a teacher. Every setback a silent reminder that Allah's plan is still in motion. Your fall may look like failure to people, but in the eyes of Allah, it's movement toward humility, reflection, and renewal. The lowest point of your life can be the highest point of your faith if it leads you back to Him. The ground that caught your tears is now the ground from which you'll rise with light. The mercy of Allah ensures that no fall is wasted. Even your regrets become acts of worship when they push you toward repentance. Even your mistakes become bridges when you walk across them with humility. But the believer's journey is not one of perfection, it's one of persistence. You don't have to rise immediately after falling. Sometimes Allah keeps you on the ground long enough for your heart to learn stillness. The waiting, the reflection, the pain, all of it refines you. Because what matters is not how fast you rise, but how deeply you learn while you're down. When you rise again, you rise differently. Softer in heart, firmer in faith, wiser in patience. You rise knowing that every fall was necessary, every delay divine, every tear recorded. You rise not because you escaped pain, but because you found purpose within it. And one day you look back at the places where you fell and you'll thank Allah for them, because those were the moments He was closest to you. Those were the places where your heart bowed before your body ever did. Every fall, every tear, every moment of surrender was never a setback. It was your invitation to rise again, higher than ever before. When you bow down in sujood, your heart may not find words. You may feel too broken, too tired, too overwhelmed to speak, but the earth beneath you listens. The ground becomes your witness, recording every tear that falls, every tremble of faith that you can't express aloud. Allah has designed this moment so that even when your lips are silent, your soul is still communicating. The earth hears what your heart cannot say. You're in sujood, language fades and sincerity takes its place. The heart that cannot form a single sentence still manages to tell its entire story. The earth that carries you becomes the keeper of secrets, the silent witness of your surrender. And on the day of judgment, that very ground will speak on your behalf, testifying that you bowed, that you wept, that you tried. When your chest tightens with emotions that have no words, remember that Allah doesn't need speech to understand. He listens to the weight of your silence, to the cries buried deep within your heart. The world demands explanation, but Allah only asks for sincerity. You don't need to articulate your pain when the one who created it already knows. Every place of sujood becomes sacred because of your sincerity, not your eloquence. The dust that touches your forehead becomes honored because it heard what your voice could not say. You may leave the prayer mat in tears, but those tears are not wasted. They are recorded by the angels, carried as testimony that your silence was worship. Sometimes your heart is too heavy to speak. You stand in prayer with 1,000 thoughts, yet not a single word seems enough. But when you bow, everything changes. The earth feels the trembling of your soul, the pulse of your pain, the rhythm of your faith. What you can't say, the earth carries to your Lord. The earth that holds your sujood is not lifeless, it's alive with purpose. Allah says that everything glorifies Him, though you may not understand how. So when you weep in sujood, the ground glorifies Allah with you. It feels your sincerity, it absorbs your tears, and it bears witness that you remembered the most merciful when the world forgot you. Your sujood becomes your silent language, the one that needs no translation. The heart may fail to form words, but Allah never fails to understand. When you place your forehead on the earth, you are saying everything your tongue cannot. Ya Allah, I'm here, I'm broken, I need you, and that is enough. When the world silences you, sujood gives you a voice. The earth listens to the cries that echo through your chest, the confessions you can't put into words. You leave your heart there pressed against the ground, and when you rise, it rises lighter because it has spoken in a way only Allah can hear. Your sujood leaves an imprint on the earth, but it also leaves one on your soul. That moment of contact is not just physical, it's spiritual. You are grounding yourself in the remembrance of your Creator. The world may think you've fallen, but in reality, you are rising closer to the one who never turns away. Every believer has moments when words fail. Pain has a way of stealing language, leaving only silence. But silence is not empty when it's directed toward Allah. In that quiet, your heart speaks through presence. The earth beneath you becomes the translator between your sorrow and His mercy. The most beautiful conversations with Allah happen in silence. No need for eloquence, no need for perfection. Just you, the ground, and your Creator. The angels stand in awe because they see what no one else can, a soul pouring its heart into the earth, trusting that every word unsaid is still heard. The earth never complains about the weight of your pain. It holds you gently every time. It receives your surrender with dignity. Every prostration, every tear, every breath you release becomes a verse of faith written upon it. And one day it will testify, he remembered Allah here. Sujood is the only place where weakness becomes worship. You may not know how to describe your grief, but your posture says it all. I cannot carry this anymore, Ya Allah. The earth doesn't just hold your body, it holds your confession, your trust, your complete surrender. When you rise from sujood, the ground that heard your silence keeps your secret. It carries your story unseen until the day when every surface will speak. The same earth that felt your trembling will one day proclaim, this servant bowed here, seeking mercy, seeking peace. The believer's relationship with the earth is sacred because it's where humility and hope meet. You came from it, you'll return to it, and between those two moments it bears witness to your devotion. The ground is not just beneath you, it's part of your journey back to the one who made you. Even the smallest corner of earth where you've wept in sujood becomes honored. The angels pass by and see its light. It is no longer ordinary soil, it's a place where heaven touched earth through your worship. You may forget the spot, but it will never forget you. The beauty of sujood is that it connects what's seen with what's unseen. Your body bows, but your soul ascends. Your silence speaks, and the earth listens. It's a reminder that you are never alone in your pain. The entire creation around you responds when you remember Allah sincerely in your hardest moments. Don't fight the silence, embrace it. Let your tears fall, let your heart rest against the ground. You don't need perfect words to reach Allah, you need presence. And sujood is that sacred presence, the meeting point between your fragility and His infinite compassion. The earth is patient. It never interrupts your tears, never questions your pain. It simply receives it as if it knows that your grief is worship. And in that stillness, the earth becomes your companion, the one that carries your story when you can no longer speak it. On the day of judgment, when you stand before Allah, the earth will speak. Every place you bowed, every spot you wept, every sujood you made will testify in your favor. The inna fatubinnaha inna vina min inna finna ya adma ala. The same ground that once held your sorrow will now declare your sincerity, and the words you couldn't say, the earth will say them for you. When the weight of life presses on your shoulders, it can feel like the world is closing in responsibilities, heartbreaks, losses, and the constant noise of expectations. But in the quiet between the chaos, when your heart turns toward Allah, something begins to shift. The weight doesn't disappear, it transforms. What once felt unbearable becomes the very reason your soul grows stronger. The burden turns into a bridge that leads you back to the one who never left. Faith doesn't remove heaviness, it redefines it. When you see your struggles through the lens of Iman, they stop being punishments and start becoming invitations. You begin to see that every difficulty is a conversation between you and your Creator, a divine way of saying, come back to me. And when you do, the same weight that once crushed you starts to comfort you. The believer learns that faith is not the absence of pain, but the presence of peace within it. When your heart remembers Allah, even storms start to feel like mercy. The sleepless nights, the tears, the uncertainty, all of it becomes lighter, not because it's gone, but because you've placed it in stronger hands. Allah carries what you can't. When you trust Allah, your heart begins to rest in the middle of the trial. You start to realize that peace doesn't come after the storm. It can exist times inside, times the storm. The same moments that made you cry now make you pray. And in those prayers you find warmth, the kind that fills you from within, reminding you that Allah never burdens a soul beyond what it can bear. The weight of life often feels unbearable until you remember who is holding it with you. Every challenge you face has already been measured, perfectly designed for your growth. You are not carrying it alone. Allah is beside you, holding you steady. What breaks most people will build a believer, because faith transforms pressure into purpose. Faith gives meaning to what the world calls misery. It takes broken moments and turns them into building blocks. The person who believes learns to say, Ya Allah, if this is from you, then it is good for me. That realization changes everything. The heart that was once heavy with grief becomes light with gratitude. When you hand your worries to Allah, He replaces them with understanding. The same situation that once terrified you now teaches you patience. The test that once drained you now strengthens your connection with the divine. You begin to smile through difficulty, not because it's easy, but because you know who's in control. Every believer reaches a point where they must decide, will this pain destroy me or will it deepen my faith? The moment you choose faith, everything changes. You stop asking why me and start saying guide me. And that shift, though small, turns burdens into blessings. The heart finds its warmth not in comfort but in conviction. The conviction that Allah is just, that He is merciful, that He never forgets those who trust Him. When this belief settles deep inside you, even your heaviest moments carry light. The same hands that trembled in weakness now rise in worship. The warmth of faith isn't loud, it's quiet, steady and constant. It doesn't erase your challenges, but it fills them with wisdom. You begin to see beauty in the delay, purpose in the loss, mercy in the hardship. That realization brings a peace that no worldly comfort can match. When faith grows, fear shrinks. The things that once made you anxious no longer control you. You stop clinging to outcomes and start clinging to the one who writes them. And that's when your heart softens. Because faith doesn't make life easier. It makes life times make sense asterisk. Allah places weights in your life to strengthen the muscles of your soul. The more you lift them with patience, the stronger your heart becomes. The believer doesn't escape trials, they evolve through them. What used to break you now becomes your reminder that Allah's mercy is greater than your pain. You start to feel warmth even in difficulty, a quiet reassurance that Allah is near. That nearness is the greatest comfort a human heart can know. When you fall into sujood with sincerity, the weight lifts not because life has changed, but because you times have. The burden remains, but the fear fades. Faith teaches you that pain has purpose. The sleepless nights, the unanswered du'as, the silent tears, they are not signs of abandonment. They are signs that Allah is refining your heart, preparing it for something higher. Every sigh becomes dhikr. Every tear becomes light. The warmth of faith is subtle but powerful. It doesn't shout, it soothes. It doesn't erase the storm, it steadies you through it. You learn to breathe differently, to walk slower, to trust deeper. The same life that once felt unbearable now feels meaningful because you've surrendered it to the one who understands. When you put your head down in sujood, you realize that the ground beneath you is softer than the world above you. You're not falling apart, you're falling into place. Every moment of hardship is a reminder that Allah is still in control, still guiding, still loving, still holding you. Faith turns burdens into blessings in disguise. The pain that once made you question Allah now makes you cling to Him. You begin to understand that Allah doesn't test to punish, He tests to purify. And purification always feels painful before it feels peaceful. Each hardship teaches you something new about yourself and about your Lord. You learn that you are stronger than you thought, but only because Allah strengthens those who rely on Him. The warmth you feel isn't comfort from the world, it's a gift from the one who sees your patience and rewards it endlessly. You realize that the weight of life was never meant to crush you. It was meant to bring you to your knees, not in defeat, but in devotion. And when your forehead touches the ground, you feel it, that warmth that only faith can give. The kind that tells you it's going to be okay, Allah is with you. When the world feels cold and heavy, wrap yourself in faith. It won't take the struggle away, but it will make every struggle worth it. Because the warmth of faith is not in what you receive, it's in who you remember. And when you remember Allah, the weight of life melts into light. Sujood is where pain transforms into purpose. It is the moment when tears stop being signs of weakness and begin to carry meaning, when what breaks your heart becomes what cleanses your soul. In that sacred place, your tears are not wasted. They are turned into light, into mercy, into answers that only Allah can write. You come to the ground carrying burdens and you rise with peace you didn't know you needed. When you cry in sujood, the world cannot see you, but the heavens do. Those tears are not for people to witness, they are for Allah to receive. Each drop that falls is a silent dua, an unspoken confession of love and surrender. You're not weeping because you're weak. You're weeping because your heart recognizes the only one who truly understands. Every tear in sujood has a story. Some come from guilt, some from fear, some from gratitude, and others from awe. But every tear that touches the ground carries the same message, Ya Allah, I belong to you. In those moments, your soul finally finds the language your tongue could not express. The ground becomes your sanctuary and your tears become your worship. In sujood, the distance between you and Allah disappears. It's not your eloquence that reaches Him, but your sincerity. The angels record your tears as acts of faith, because crying in sujood is not a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. It's the moment you stop fighting your pain and start handing it over to the one who can heal it. Every believer knows the comfort that comes after crying in sujood. You walk away from prayer lighter, not because your problems are gone, but because your heart has been emptied of despair. Your tears have meaning because they were shed before the most merciful, the one who never lets a broken heart go unanswered. Sujood is not just an act, it's an experience. It's the meeting point between your weakness and Allah's strength. The tears you cry in that moment are being transformed in the unseen. Each one carries forgiveness, each one washes a sin, and each one becomes a reason for mercy to descend upon you. When your forehead touches the ground, your heart begins to speak a truth. You cannot hide, Ya Allah, I can't, but you can. That admission turns tears into treasures. The more you weep for Allah, the more He replaces your pain with peace. It's a sacred exchange, sorrow for serenity, emptiness for connection. Sujood is the most beautiful form of crying because it comes from closeness, not distance. It's not the tears of despair, but of relief that you have somewhere to go when the world turns away. Those tears purify you, softening your heart until it beats in rhythm with remembrance. The Prophet, peace be upon him, taught that no one's forehead touches the ground in humility except that their sins fall away with it. So imagine how beloved the tears are that accompany that humility. In sujood, every sob is seen, every sigh is heard, and every silence is understood. You may not realize it, but every tear you cry in sujood is being lifted by the angels, carried to the heavens as proof of your sincerity. It is said that the believer's tears are more precious than pearls because they are born from love of Allah, love of forgiveness, love of hope. When life overwhelms you, remember this, you are never too broken to pray. Sujood was created for the heart that no longer knows how to express itself. You can cry, stay silent, or just breathe, and Allah will still understand every emotion. That's the beauty of the sacred posture. It turns silence into speech and tears into worship. Sometimes the best dua is the one made through tears. You don't need perfect words, you just need a sincere heart. Allah understands your trembling voice, your pauses, your tears. He sees the story behind every drop that falls. And He responds not always with what you asked for, but always with what's best for you. The earth that catches your tears in sujood will one day testify for you. It will say, he cried here seeking forgiveness, seeking peace. Those tears, once invisible, will become your greatest witnesses. And when others stand empty-handed, you will find your tears standing as your deeds. When you cry in sujood, you are fulfilling one of the most intimate forms of worship. It is not an act of sorrow, but of love. You cry because your soul recognizes its creator. You weep because your heart feels His mercy. You bend because your spirit knows that the highest place in this world is at His feet. The tears of sujood don't just cleanse your heart, they shape your destiny. Each one opens a door, lifts a burden, or plants a seed of barakah you'll see later in your life. What looks like weakness today will become your strength tomorrow. Your tears are not forgotten, they are stored as light for the day you'll need them most. When you rise from sujood, your face carries a glow that no makeup, no smile, no success could ever produce. It's the glow of a soul that's been purified through tears. The people around you might not notice, but the angels do. They see a heart that has been washed clean by mercy. You'll find that the more you cry in sujood, the less you cry elsewhere. The heart that empties its pain before Allah no longer seeks comfort from the world. It learns to turn inward, to kneel, to whisper in the silence of the night. It finds peace where others only find exhaustion. Every tear shed in sujood is a step closer to Jannah. Allah has promised that He is near to those who call upon Him, and those who cry for His sake are among His most beloved. When you feel unseen, remember your tears are seen by the one whose mercy surrounds you even before you ask. Sujood is the place where pain and peace coexist, where your eyes may blur with tears but your heart sees clearly, where every sob is an act of worship and every drop that falls carries meaning beyond this world. Maikatika tumin maturnin. It's where the believer learns that true strength is found in surrender. So cry not in despair but in devotion. Let your tears speak the words your heart cannot. Let them fall upon the ground that has held the tears of prophets, the cries of believers, the hopes of the sincere. For in sujood, every tear finds its meaning and every heart finds its way home. When the world grows distant and your heart feels empty, that is often when Allah draws closest. The loneliness that settles in your chest isn't a punishment, it's an invitation. It's a gentle pull from the one who wants your attention, your silence, your heart. In a world that moves too fast, Allah sometimes slows you down so that you can finally feel His presence again. The people fade, the noise quiets, and all that remains is you and Him. When everyone seems to have walked away, Allah stays. His closeness is not something you can always describe. It's something you feel deep in your soul. A quiet warmth that replaces fear with calm. You might not see signs, but you'll notice the difference. Your heart softens, your tears fall easier, your prayers feel lighter. That is the unseen nearness of the most merciful, wrapping you in comfort. There comes a point when the things that once distracted you lose their meaning. The conversations feel shallow, the laughter fades quickly, the company no longer satisfies your soul. That's when you realize Allah has distanced the world from you so that you may find meaning in Him alone. He doesn't take people away to hurt you. He takes them away to give you space for peace. Closeness to Allah doesn't come from perfection. It comes from presence. It's not about how much you know or how much you do. It's about how much you turn to Him when no one else understands. The quiet moments when you whisper His name, the sighs that escape during sujood, the tears that fall for no reason, all of that is His way of telling you, I am near. When you feel distant from people, remember that the one who created hearts never leaves yours unattended. Sometimes He isolates you to strengthen your connection with Him. He removes worldly noise so that you can hear the whispers of your soul. Loneliness is not emptiness, it's divine realignment. The more you sit with your silence, the more you'll notice that Allah has been in it all along. The world will never understand your heart the way Allah does. You can explain your pain 100 times and people still won't grasp it. But you can fall into one sujood and Allah will already know everything, the story behind your tears, the fear behind your smile, the hope buried beneath your exhaustion. His knowledge of you is deeper than your understanding of yourself.
There are moments when faith feels like a quiet heartbeat, steady but unseen. You may not always feel inspired, but even your longing for closeness is a sign that you are already close.
The fact that your heart aches for peace is proof that your soul still remembers where it belongs. Allah doesn't ignore that ache. He answers it in His own beautiful way. Sometimes Allah takes away the comfort of people so you can experience the sweetness of solitude with Him. It's in those moments of isolation that your heart softens enough to hear the truth. Peace doesn't come from company, it comes from connection. You don't need the world to understand you when the Creator of the world already does. When you sit alone, you may feel a heaviness at first. But if you turn your heart toward Allah, that heaviness transforms into serenity. The tears that fall in those moments are not tears of sadness. They are signs that your soul recognizes its Lord. Every quiet moment spent in remembrance brings you closer to the one who loves to be remembered. The closeness of Allah can be felt in the simplest ways. A calm after dua, a tear during recitation, a sudden peace in the middle of chaos. These are not coincidences. They are reminders that the one who manages the stars also manages the rhythm of your heart. His mercy is woven through every breath you take. When people distance themselves from you, don't chase them. Turn your heart instead to the one who never moves away. The distance of the world often precedes the closeness of Allah. It's in losing what you thought you needed that you realize He was all you needed all along. The emptiness you feel is not a void, it's an opening for divine love. You'll notice that in your loneliest moments, your du'as become more sincere. You speak without rehearsing. You cry without holding back. That raw vulnerability is the doorway to closeness. Allah loves when His servants come to Him as they are broken, tired, honest. Because it is in honesty that hearts truly connect. The closer you get to Allah, the less you need validation from people. You begin to understand that peace doesn't come from being seen, but from being known by the one who hears you even in silence. That realization frees you. You stop chasing attention and start chasing contentment. And contentment lives where Allah resides in remembrance, patience and gratitude. The world teaches you to depend on people, but faith teaches you to depend on Allah. The moment you rely on Him, you realize you were never truly alone. The people who left did not take your peace with them. They simply made room for a peace that only Allah could bring. His companionship fills the spaces others abandon. Every time your heart breaks from distance, Allah is quietly repairing it with nearness. You may not feel the change immediately, but over time you begin to smile again, not because everything is perfect, but because you found comfort in imperfection. You've discovered that being close to Allah is better than being understood by the world. When the world rejects you, Allah's doors open wider. The heart that once sought belonging from people now finds it in prayer. The places that felt empty start to feel sacred. You realize that Allah's closeness isn't something you chase, it's something you return to. You were never far from Him, you were only distracted. Even the moments when you feel distant from Allah are part of His mercy. They remind you of how much you miss Him. The ache you feel in your chest is not a sign of failure, it's a sign of love. Allah lets you feel distance so that when you turn back, you appreciate the nearness more deeply. Closeness to Allah changes the way you see everything. You stop measuring peace by how easy life is and start measuring it by how connected you feel. You learn to smile even through tears, to trust even in darkness, and to hope even in uncertainty. That is the power of divine nearness. It steadies your soul in every storm. In moments of solitude, you begin to hear your heart clearly. You realize that the same isolation that once felt unbearable is now the space where your faith breathes. The closer you draw to Allah, the lighter the world feels. You no longer need everything to make sense. You just need to know that He is near. Allah's closeness doesn't depend on your perfection. It depends on your persistence. Every time you turn to Him after sin, after silence, after struggle, He receives you with open mercy. The world may hold grudges, but Allah holds hearts. And His love doesn't fade when you fail. It deepens when you repent. When you sit quietly and whisper His name, you'll notice the world slow down. The noise fades, the anxiety softens, and a gentle calm takes over. That's not imagination, that's divine response. It's Allah answering your longing with His presence. It's a moment where heaven touches earth and you realize you were never alone. Closeness to Allah transforms your loneliness into light. You stop seeing silence as empty and start seeing it as sacred. You realize that every quiet night, every tear, every sigh is a conversation between your heart and its creator. And in those conversations, you find what the world could never give, peace that stays. The world's distance is temporary, but Allah's nearness is eternal. He doesn't come and go like people do. He's constant, patient and kind. Even when you forget Him, He never forgets you. His mercy chases you through your mistakes. His love follows you through your flaws. And His nearness waits patiently for your return. The closeness of Allah is not found in perfection but in perseverance. It's in the daily effort to remember, to trust, to pray even when your heart feels heavy. It's in knowing that every Ya Allah whispered through tears is already being answered in ways unseen. And when the world feels far and life feels uncertain, remember this: the distance you feel is not separation, it's direction. Allah is turning your heart away from what distracts and toward what heals. The closeness you feel when the world feels distant is not coincidence. It's mercy, quiet, gentle, and always near. When you finally reach the point where the floor becomes your refuge, it may feel like the lowest moment of your life, but in truth, it is the beginning of your rise. The floor is not a place of defeat. It's the gateway to divine strength. The same ground that catches your tears is the one that lifts your spirit. When your forehead meets the earth in sujood, you are not falling apart, you are falling into the arms of mercy. The believer learns that strength does not come from standing tall, but from knowing when to bow down. Every time you touch the ground in humility, your soul is being raised in honor. The world might see a person bowed in weakness, but the angels see a soul glowing with resilience. What others call surrender, Allah calls strength. When the floor becomes the place where you meet your Lord, it transforms into a sacred door. A door not built of wood or stone, but of faith and sincerity. The floor you once collapsed upon in exhaustion becomes the space where you rebuild your heart. It's where burdens melt into peace and pain turns into purpose. In sujood, you realize that Allah allows certain weights to push you down only so that you can find the strength to rise again. You were never meant to stay standing on your own forever. Sometimes He brings you to your knees, not to punish you, but to remind you that real power begins where pride ends. The floor holds countless stories, the stories of those who broke before Allah to find healing. Every believer who has truly tasted sujood knows that it's the only place where falling is rising. It's not the end of your journey. It's where your journey begins again, renewed and refined by faith. When your head touches the earth, the world above you disappears. The noise fades, the chaos softens, and all that remains is your heart speaking directly to the one who never leaves. It's in that silence that divine strength begins to form quietly, patiently, powerfully. You don't rise from sujood the same as you went into it. The floor teaches you humility. It reminds you that you came from dust and will return to it. But in between, it gives you the chance to touch it in worship. That contact, forehead to ground, is the most intimate connection a soul can have with its creator. From that humility, true strength grows. Sujood is where the soul refuels. The world drains you, people disappoint you, and your plans fall apart. But in sujood, everything realigns. You let go of control, and in return, Allah gives you calm. The ground doesn't hold you down, it steadies you so you can stand again, this time with a heart anchored in faith. Every believer who has ever cried on the floor knows this truth. Allah meets you where the world leaves you. When people stop listening, the floor still does. When your tears fall silently, they don't vanish. They are received by the one who promised that He is near to the broken-hearted. Divine strength isn't about never falling, it's about knowing where to fall. The floor becomes your sanctuary because it's where you place everything you cannot fix. Your fears, your regrets, your pain, all laid before Allah, and somehow what feels like breaking becomes rebuilding. In those moments, when your body bows but your spirit rises, you begin to understand why sujood is the most honored act of worship. It's where weakness becomes wisdom. You stop relying on your own power and start drawing from the endless strength of the Almighty. The floor has held prophets, believers, sinners and seekers. It has heard the prayers of those who thought they were finished, only to rise stronger than before. The same floor that bore their tears, bore witness to their transformation. It's not dirt you're touching, it's destiny. When you fall into sujood, the heart that once trembled with fear now beats with faith. You begin to see that falling isn't failure, it's a form of flight. You are being lifted from within. The humility that touches the ground becomes the force that helps you rise above everything that once weighed you down. In that moment of surrender, you find peace in powerlessness. You stop asking, why me? And start saying, guide me. You realize that Allah never intended for you to carry the world. He only asked you to carry faith. And the floor is where you lay everything else down. The power of sujood lies in its simplicity. No wealth, no status, no title matters when your forehead touches the ground. You are stripped of everything worldly, left only with your humanity, and that's where divine mercy flows most freely. In your lowest physical position, you reach your highest spiritual state. Every drop of tear that falls on the floor in sujood is seen, recorded and rewarded. The angels surround you in that moment, not because you are strong, but because you are sincere. That sincerity invites Allah's help, and when He helps, nothing can stand against you. When life becomes too heavy, the floor calls you not as a place of defeat, but as a reminder that it's okay to fall if it's in front of Allah. You don't need to have everything together to bow. You just need to have faith that even your brokenness is valuable in His sight. It's in sujood that the believer learns what true strength feels like. It's not loud, it's not proud, it's silent, it's soft, it's steady. You leave the floor with tears on your face, but peace in your chest. You rise not because life is easy, but because Allah has strengthened your heart from within. When you make sujood in the depth of pain, you are doing what every prophet did in their moments of despair. From Adam to Yunus to Muhammad, peace be upon him, they all found power in the same posture, the posture of submission. You are walking the path of the chosen when you fall for Allah's sake. The floor is where you face your reality with faith. You acknowledge your weakness without shame because you know that Allah honors humility. You stop running from your struggles and start prostrating with them. And as you do, the burdens that once felt unbearable begin to lighten. The door to divine strength is closer than you think. It doesn't stand tall, it lies low. You don't open it with your hands, you open it with your heart. Every time your forehead meets the ground, that door opens wider and a new kind of peace enters your life, the kind that cannot be shaken. The believer learns that the floor is not the end of a journey, but the most sacred beginning. Each time you fall into sujood, you are writing a story of resilience in the unseen. You are proving that the soul's greatest power is found in surrender. The lower you go, the higher Allah raises you. When life crushes you with pressure, remember that diamonds are made the same way under pressure, in the dark and deep beneath the surface. Sujood is that hidden space where Allah polishes your heart until it shines. The floor is not your weakness, it's your workshop of strength. Every test that brings you to sujood is a sign that Allah still loves you enough to call you near. He doesn't push you down to leave you there. He pushes you down to remind you that He is waiting to lift you up. The floor becomes the bridge between your weakness and His infinite mercy. And when you rise from sujood after crying your heart out, you may still face the same problems, but you'll face them differently. You'll walk with calm, speak with wisdom, and endure with faith. Because once the floor becomes your door to divine strength, no trial can truly bring you down again. The bow of sujood is not a sign of weakness. It is the most powerful act a soul can perform. When you lower yourself before Allah, every chain that life has wrapped around your heart begins to break. The burdens that weighed on your shoulders, the fears that filled your mind, and the pain that silenced your voice all start to loosen in that sacred moment of surrender. You bend, but you are not breaking. You are being rebuilt by mercy. Sujood is the place where submission becomes liberation. The world may try to convince you that freedom comes from control, but faith teaches otherwise. True freedom begins when you let go, when you bow before the one who never enslaves you, but instead sets your heart free. Each prostration frees you from the expectations of the world and binds you closer to the one who understands your soul. Every time your forehead touches the ground, the chains of pride, ego, and despair begin to crack. You start realizing that the things you once chased were never meant to define you. The act of bowing humbles you, softens you, and molds you into someone stronger, someone purer. It's not just your body that bends, it's your heart finding alignment with its creator. Sujood breaks the illusion that you are in control. It reminds you that power, provision, and peace come only from Allah. The believer who bows sincerely learns to trust in ways they never did before. They stop trying to carry the world alone and instead place it before the one who holds it all. That is where the chains of anxiety begin to fall away. The bow is not about giving up, it's about giving over. It's the moment your heart whispers, Ya Allah, I surrender not because I am weak, but because I am yours. In that surrender lies a strength the world cannot comprehend. You rise lighter, calmer, and more certain that whatever awaits you has already been written with wisdom. Every chain that ties you to the world loses its grip when your head meets the floor. The chain of fear, the chain of grief, the chain of longing, they all melt under the weight of faith. The bow doesn't imprison you, it frees you to be who you were always meant to be, a servant at peace with the decree of his Lord. The soul grows every time you bow. It learns patience when the answer is delayed. It learns humility when the blessing arrives, and it learns strength when the test returns. Sujood becomes your classroom, and the lessons it teaches cannot be learnt anywhere else. You walk away wiser, softer, and more aware of Allah's presence in every moment. Sujood builds the soul because it reminds you of your origin and your purpose. You came from the earth and you return to it only to rise again. When your forehead touches that same ground, it's as if your heart is saying, from you I came and to you I will return. That realization gives your life meaning far beyond material success. The one who learns to bow in private will never have to break in public. The strength that sujood builds within you becomes invisible armor. It shields you from hopelessness and fills you with resilience. People may wonder how you keep standing after so many storms. They don't see that you've already fallen to your knees before Allah. When you bow, you are rewriting your story. The mistakes that once haunted you now become reminders of how far you've come. The tears that once fell from despair now fall from gratitude. The bow turns your past into purpose and your weakness into worship. The chains that once held you captive now remind you of who freed you. Sujood breaks arrogance in a way nothing else can. It reminds you that no matter how much power you have, you still return to the same ground as everyone else. That truth humbles you. It replaces superiority with sincerity and self-pride with gratitude. Through humility, Allah builds your soul to be noble. The more you bow, the stronger your heart becomes. Each sujood plants a seed of peace within you. The world above may still be chaotic, but beneath it all, your roots are grounded in remembrance. You stop reacting with fear and start responding with faith. You move through life knowing that every fall can become another sujood. Sujood breaks the chains of sin as well. Every sincere bow wipes away stains you thought were permanent. Each tear becomes a drop of purification. You rise forgiven, renewed, and ready to start again. Subi ama akmanullahi walladhi ala akama. That's the beauty of Allah's mercy. No chain is too strong when you meet it with repentance. In the bow, time slows down. You stop worrying about what's next and start feeling the presence of the moment. The world fades away, leaving only peace. You realize that you are exactly where you're meant to be, closest to your Lord, closest to the one who has always been with you. The bow is where anxiety dissolves. You go into it with a heavy heart and come out with clarity. It's not that your problems disappear, it's that your heart is now anchored in trust. You begin to see that nothing in this world can truly harm you when Allah is with you. That realization is the greatest strength of all. The believer who bows learns to love the ground that holds him. That small patch of earth becomes sacred. It carries the weight of your pain and the sincerity of your prayers. One day, it will speak in your favor, saying, he remembered Allah here. The bow not only breaks chains, it builds legacies. When you make sujood, you join a lineage of the faithful. From Adam to Muhammad, peace be upon him, every prophet bowed before the same creator. You are continuing that legacy. Every prostration connects you to a timeless chain of believers who found power through submission. Every bow you make adds light to your record and strength to your heart. It's not about how long you stay down, but how deeply you mean it. The sincerity in your sujood travels farther than your words ever could. The bow becomes your most honest expression of faith. The chains that the world placed on you, expectations, failures, disappointments, begin to lose their meaning. Sujood redefines you. You're no longer the one who failed or the one who lost. You're the one who bowed. You are the one who chose surrender over despair. That choice is what builds your soul into something unbreakable. When you feel powerless, bow. When you feel proud, bow. When you feel lost, bow. Each time you do, you'll find that something inside you shifts from chaos to calm, from fear to faith, from confusion to clarity. That's the hidden strength of sujood. It doesn't change your world, it changes you. Sujood teaches you that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. It whispers in the stillness of prayer, in the tears that fall quietly, in the heartbeat that says, I trust you. Allah. That whisper grows louder with every bow until it becomes your constant reminder that no chain can hold a heart anchored in faith. The bow is where Allah rebuilds the believer. Each prostration adds another layer of resilience, another ounce of wisdom, another breath of hope. You are being shaped slowly, beautifully, through every act of worship. You are being prepared for the day when only those who bowed in this world will stand tall in the next. In sujood, the heart is reintroduced to peace. The tears you once feared become the rain that nourishes your faith. The ground that once caught your fall becomes the foundation for your rise. What the world calls bending, Allah calls building, and He builds with perfection. The bow breaks chains, but it also builds bridges between your pain and your peace, between your weakness and His strength, between who you were and who you're becoming. It's not just an act of worship, it's an act of rebirth. When you rise from sujood, you carry something invisible yet powerful, the quiet strength of someone who has been rebuilt by grace. The chains you once feared are gone, replaced by conviction, and your soul, once burdened by this world, now stands tall in the light of divine strength. When life feels heavy and your heart begins to tremble, remember that strength is not found in standing tall, it's found in bowing low. The floor you fall upon in sujood is not the end of your journey, it's the beginning of your ascent. The bow that humbles your body is the very act that frees your soul. It is in that sacred moment when you lower your head and silence the world that Allah begins to lift everything inside you. Every tear that falls in sujood is not a sign of pain, it's a signature of love between you and your Creator. Those moments of stillness, those quiet whispers that no one else hears are written in your favor in the unseen. When you rise from sujood, you rise lighter because you've left your burdens on the ground and taken peace back into your heart. True strength doesn't come from fighting harder, it comes from surrendering deeper. Every bow chips away at fear, doubt and pride and rebuilds your heart with patience, faith and light. The bow that once felt like breaking becomes the reason you are whole again. You begin to walk with calmness, speak with kindness, and face the storms with serenity. The power of sujood is that it connects heaven and earth through your forehead. It reminds you that no matter how broken, tired, or unseen you feel, Allah knows, Allah listens, Allah heals. You don't need to be perfect to bow, you just need to be willing, because every sujood you make plants a seed of strength that will bloom in Jannah. So the next time life pushes you down, don't resist the fall, embrace it. Let your knees touch the ground, let your heart touch the divine, and let your tears become your testimony. For every bow you make in this world builds a palace for you in the next. The bow that breaks your chains today will be the reason you stand tall in eternity.